Hello and welcome to the Noclip podcast, episode 73. We are back at home. We are back with a full crew. Everyone's here. Jeremy, Jane, how are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm glad to be back in my beautiful home.
Your terrific abode. No mosquitoes there to bite me to death.
Oh, they're still here. I don't know if they followed me. I don't know if it's the same ones from LA, but they're hitting hard.
Yeah, well, they didn't seem to like chewing on you as much as they did me. Frank Howley, how are you doing? Have you been chewed on recently?
No, I've been safe from any raw bites. Although it would be appropriate with V Rising and Morbius Nation still sweeping. No, I'm good. Yeah. Summer's coming. There's lots of like plans and conventions, so I'm like, there's so much stuff going on, but it's exciting. Good energy.
Awesome. Frank can't wait to morb. Jesse Garasha, how you doing, my friend? Thanks for taking the reins on production last week, especially as I forgot all of our amazing Battle Pass holders. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm chilling, but I'm very hot. It's sweltering up here. I'm stuck in an attic. I had to turn my AC off just for this, so you better be appreciative, all right?
Oh my God. He's hotboxing it while we do this. Should we do a 3-hour podcast and watch Jesse slowly fade?
Let's not.
Just pass out. Okay, maybe not. Thank you for listening to our podcast. If you'd like to support this ad-free podcast, fund our documentaries, and get access to a bunch of bonuses, including videos, bonus podcast episodes, Discord access, you can head over to patreon.com/noclip. I say it's ad-free, but there's that little ad there. It's also the first of the month, and we just love patrons because we need them to stay alive. That's how it works. They will kill me if it drops underneath a certain amount. It's like speed, but with money. And shout out to all of our Battle Pass holders who are fighting the good fight. Cody Krieger, Aaron L. White, Forrest Pruitt, Cameron Ladd, George Sakotis, Prey.
Ooh.
We have a new one.
Thank you.
Prey. And of course, Tohir Tilyev. Thank you so much. All of you wonderful people. Folks, I want to ask a very important question. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today. Video games we're playing, all that shenanigans. If you want any hot takes on the Sony thing that happened later today, don't ask us because it didn't happen yet, so we don't have a clue. Bloodborne's probably not coming out with 60 frames a second on PC, although if it did, that'd be pretty great. I want to ask a really important question to all of you. How are you faring in the fight against Windows 11? Because I swear to fucking God, every single time I turn on my computer, Windows 10 has figured out a new way to annoy me about why I need to upgrade to Windows 11. I just turned the podcast machine on a few minutes ago, and it like presented basically Windows 11. Like it just kind of showed it and went, hey, look, this is what you could be enjoying.
Don't you want this?
And don't you want this? And then there's like and then there's like a big dirty, like crud covered decline free upgrade button in the corner. I swear to God, it's been like months of them just increasing the ante on how hard they're trying to get me to go to Windows 11. How you guys doing? Are any of you on Windows 11?
I'm
Have
all
any
in.
of you you're all in?
I've got it. So I have a Microsoft Surface. And the changes for Windows 11.
I'm so sorry.
I know. Well, I like it. You know what? It's not bad. Having Windows on a machine that's the size of an iPad is actually very useful in a lot of situations where you need a computer, but you don't want to bring a whole laptop. That said, Windows 11 on a desktop is a fucking nightmare, especially if you use Adobe products. Trying to
really?
Yeah, man. Trying to open anything is a pain. You know how like you're trying to drag a file from a folder into Premiere or into whatever, and you drag it by dragging the file onto the icon on the taskbar, and then you can't do that anymore.
Oh no.
Yeah, which makes it such a pain. There's so many stupid little things they changed.
Isn't it funny how it's just these tiny little quality of life things, but that's what I guess that's what Windows is. It's just quality of life. It is a quality of life piece of software. Jeremy, you're shrugging your head like you don't want part of any of this shit. What's going on? What's your Windows 11 journey?
I'm the world's least committed Luddite. I'm very anti-update. I'm the guy who people will send me emojis on my phone, and it'll just be a bunch of question marks because I haven't updated it since 2007. Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I've got now is Windows gave me like a little icon in my search bar in the bottom that shows like fish and cacti. And
I've got that one right now. Actually,
and it's like I just don't understand who wants that. Who is that for? Who wants it? Who thinks that's like do people think that's like cute or cool or like fun or appealing to click on and be like, oh, it's fish day. Oh, it's World Cactus Day. Like, it's fucking.
Is that what it is? It's not World Cactus Day. What day is it?
World Milk
it's World
Day,
Milk Day.
Yeah. Move over Pride Month. It's World Milk Day.
Happy Milk Day, everybody.
Happy Pride Month, by the way, to all who serve.
Yeah, I'll serve.
And happy Milk Day to all who drink. It's I'm glad to hear that. So I guess we're 2-1. Frank Howley, how is the war going to continue? Windows 11, where are you?
I have no interest in upgrading. I was an early adopter of Windows Vista when I was in high school, and that was like the worst mistake because I couldn't update my iPod for a year. I might be getting a new computer in like August, so then I might need to figure out like, oh, should I just get it pre-installed Windows 11? But I'm always so afraid of stuff not working. I have to also check like, do all emulators work with Windows 11? Like, is there anything there's glitchy? So I don't know. I'm okay. But yeah, that Windows 10 included that search bar update to include all those daily like animated icons, and it was so disgusting I had to get rid of it.
Yeah, there's so much
disgusting.
of that shit.
That is the word for it. I also, while we're going off on updates, Premiere, the new Adobe Premiere, when you start a new project,
it's so gross.
It is horrible. It is like they took my like Toyota Tacoma and they turned it into like a fucking candy colored golf cart. So you start it up and it's like, okay, you're starting a new project, obviously, and then the AirSots equivalent of Clippy from Microsoft Word appears and it's like, do you want all of these this like bullshit clips of like stock footage of Mexico? Maybe you need that in your next project. And it's like,
How did you know?
There's no way they could guess what kind of stock footage I'm going to need, and also I don't need stock footage. So it's like, I just put a button that says, do you need some stock footage, and let me opt into that. But I don't know.
Yeah, why'd they change the render dialog window too? Like that's another thing they changed. Like the render window when you go to export.
I like that now.
Yeah?
That's good.
Okay.
I like that. Yeah. But I can see if people don't. Like it's just on a tab now, which is good. So it's none of that. Doesn't go to a separate majigger, but like it's still just another little.
I don't mind the export window, but I do feel like using Adobe, which, I like Adobe's software, so I'm not complaining about the core software. I'm complaining about the updates because it essentially, like, that's my job, those are my tools. So it's like I'm a carpenter and I go into my shop and they're like, hey, we cleaned up, and I'm like, I don't know where any of the fucking hammers are, and they're like, no, it's better this way though.
I find it so hard to get angry at Adobe. I know people like it happens all the time. I mean, the thing breaks when I couldn't render the DMA stuff. Like that was a nightmare. And when they did an update that basically ruined all the Red Universe plugin stuff, that was a nightmare. But I just remember using video production software 20 years ago too much. And I'm like, oh, but thank you for saving me from that nightmare. I remember Sony Vegas. I remember trying to get stuff from tapes onto a computer with a S-video lead and a camera, and I'm just like, I'll take it. It's like as bad as annoying as this is, or like when it's like really expensive, and I'm like, well, it's not that expensive if you lived 20 years ago trying to get good commercial grade video software. It's like actually fairly manageable. But yeah, I don't know. I can see. I understand people's frustrations, but I always go back to, do you remember the dark days?
Yeah, I remember using a pirated copy of Sony Vegas. I remember in film school they made us use Avid. I remember digitizing DV tapes into Avid, which I'm 31. I feel like I'm talking like I'm 1,000 years old.
Yeah, Avid. Well, that's the thing. We were kind of using old software. We were kind of using bad commercial software. I mean, Avid is still used a lot in like television stuff, but like, we were using like the sort of dregs of commercial software because like who was making videos back then? It was like television and film production people, and that was it. Like, this is pre-YouTube, so it's like there was no, Windows Movie Maker was what most people were using to make movies, which was arguably better then than it is now, because they turned it into like a little drag and droppy piece of garbage. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like your dad was a filmmaker and you got his old Steen back and you just had to like stamp all the film strips together because you had nothing else.
A little bit, yeah. Whereas now, at least, like, most people making video mightn't be making the most money out of it, but most people making video are chodes like us, putting stuff up on YouTube, living that life. I say chode with my heart full of
hope
pride.
so.
Just, yeah, absolutely. I've been living that chode life my whole life.
Chodes like us would be a good romantic comedy. I just want to throw that out there.
I haven't played that many games because we were in LA. I played the Bug Snacks, the Big Snacks a bit. It's good fun. It's a bit more puzzly and technically than regular Bug Snacks, which, as a tool to keep my child occupied while she's sitting on my lap and she's been running around a little bit too much, is kind of a little bit tricky because she just likes going up to the Bug Snacks. But aside from that and Elden Ring, that's all I've been playing. So somebody take me out of my misery. Jesse, I think you've jumped into the world of V Rising, right? How deep are you?
I'm fanged in.
He's Morbin.
They're Morbin out.
Morbin.
It's Morbin time, baby. I can't stop. V Rising's a good time, man. I thought it was gonna be kind of whatever, but I'm all in on this. So V Rising is an isometric based crafting survival game where you play as a vampire. Like, the whole thing is based around kind of vampire lore. You're building a castle. Is kind of like the main thing that you're doing is you're getting resources so that you can upgrade your castle, so you have access to more stuff. You can fight all these bosses to unlock new powers and make your way around the world. It kind of feels, to me anyways, like I'm playing, and maybe this is a generational thing, I don't know, but it reminds me of playing RuneScape when I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah, like it feels in the same kind of way. People have described it as Terraria in isometric, but with vampire stuff, because, the whole point of getting stuff in Terraria ends up being fighting bosses and working your way up. So the thing that I've noticed while playing this, and it's something I keep thinking about, is like the thing that gets me hooked into these games, because I don't really play crafting survival kind of games all too often, is how well they can determine the length of the stick and how appealing the carrot is at the end of it. And each time you get that carrot, they have to keep extending the stick and they have to keep changing the carrot. And the only way I'm going to get into this shit is if they can actually perfectly find that, like, how much longer do we make the stick each time? And this game nails that, because every time you get to the end of a scenario in V Rising where you're trying to fight a boss or you're trying to find a certain resource or a certain amount of resources, once you find them, the thing you get from doing that is so interesting that you're like, I have to keep playing. Like, I can't stop playing
that's
after
cool.
that. Yeah. Like,
do you get, is it powers or abilities or new areas, or what is it?
Yeah. So it's you're unlocking a lot of, like, when you fight bosses, you'll get abilities. There's like 5 or 6 trees that you have to choose abilities from. They're like skill shots, so you're throwing balls of poison or like ice, which are cool. They let you fight bosses in different ways. You get different dashes, like you have a dash that's built into the game, that lets you kind of move out the way, but they'll have different abilities, so you can dash and deal more damage, or dash and stun an enemy after you hit them, which is really cool. But one of the bigger things you get is more upgrades. So there's like objectives that the game gives you in the top left corner. It's like, go and do this and you'll unlock something soon. So go fight this boss, or go upgrade your castle to a certain amount. And then they'll show you what the next reward is. And it'll be something like dominate person. And you're like, what the fuck does that mean? You're like, now I have to figure out what this is. And then you find it out and you're like, oh, I don't want to give it away because I think the reveal there is very cool. But there's another one earlier where like the game moves kind of slow at the start. You don't run. There's no run. You just walk at a certain pace. And by the point that I was like, I'm tired of walking so slow, the game is like, all right, here's a boss you can go fight. Once you beat it, it doesn't give you a run button. It gives you wolf form.
Nice.
So you turn into a wolf, and that lets you run a little bit faster. So it's like stuff like that, right? Where it gives you something and you're like, oh shit, well now the thing that was bothering me is easier. I want to keep playing the game. I want to see more of what's going on. It's a really good time. It's very addictive, kind of thing you could play till 5 a.m. easily.
Neat. What's the, like, I guess I'm looking at some gameplay just while you're talking here. It's kind of like, I don't want to say it's Diablo-y in the way it looks, but it's like, I think a lot of I don't know if it's like to play that way, but like aesthetically, I guess, because it's like dark and gothic and stuff. What's the crafting stuff look like? Because I'm watching it here and it's like, because it doesn't like pop out to like a build your base mode. You're just still the character doing it, like in Valheim and stuff, right? How does all that stuff work? Is it good?
Yeah. So the combat, real quick, is it's an ARPG. Like you're playing an action RPG. It feels like that. It feels really good. It's probably one of the best feeling combat systems I've seen in a crafting survival game, which is really nice, especially because it's early access and this is like version 0.1 whatever.
How much is it?
$20.
Okay, all right.
Something like that on Steam. Yeah. But the crafting and the base building stuff is very straightforward. Like the crafting system is time based, so you'll put objects in your crafting system, like you'll go to upgrade your armor, or you'll build new weapons, or you'll do whatever stuff later that you unlock. That's really cool. And you'll have to wait a minute, right? You have to wait 2 minutes for something to finish, which is normal for those kinds of games. And that encourages you to go do stuff and find more resources and fight bosses while you wait for stuff to finish and all that. And then the base building is this like fixed grid where you have a certain amount of space that you have to fill up in an area, and you start with this like vampire heart in the to build bases, and then you unlock a certain amount of area around you.
Wait, like HEART, or is there an H on the end of that?
I think it's just the HEART.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, like that's your starting point for your base, and then you build around that by unlocking the area around it. Like you purchase little grid spots, and then you have to build the walls that surround
buying
it.
land.
Yeah, exactly.
From the local county.
Yeah, and then you sell it to people for way too much money.
Yeah, you rezone it.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
is what.
Yeah. I'm house hacking in V Rising. It's great. Yeah, and then you just keep building stuff on top of it. You keep extending your borders. The one thing that's kind of tough though is the game takes place on public servers, and I don't know how they're going to solve this problem, but I think it's going to be the sticking point for if this game has legs. Because I joined with my buddy on a public server 2-3 weeks out of release. The game has persistent mansions that you build, and the world's persistent. So the map is the same on every server, but public servers, if you have a base there and you keep putting energy into this heart, then your mansion can't be destroyed. So all the good starting places are completely filled up. Like you kind of don't have any space to build anything. And if it's a PvE server, you can't break the buildings. So playing on PvE in a public server is kind of not fun. You have to pick kind of small, cramped places to build your base, or you have to move really far away from a lot of the interesting starting stuff, which is a bit disappointing, especially as time goes on.
Okay, so why do you think? So there's no offline mode in this whatsoever.
So there is. You can play private servers, but the downside to that is your private server that you're playing only updates while you're playing, unless you're running a server that you've set up in your home, or like you're renting one off of a website or something.
Okay. And the problem there is what?
Well, there's no issue if you're renting one, but if you're playing one like on your own, usually you'll set up a bunch of resources to finish crafting while you're off doing something, right? Like you'll set up 100 copper or whatever because I want a bunch of ingots, or you'll set up a bunch of animal hide because you want a bunch of leather. But that's not working while you're not playing. So you can't leave it.
And are the timers such that you need to leave it?
Yeah, exactly. Like for some of them, you need a long time. Like the earlier stuff, it's not too bad. Like it's maybe 30 seconds for something to finish, but there's stuff later that can take like an hour for the one thing to finish, which is not, if you come in to play for 30 minutes every once in a while and update your resources, that can be a little bit of a sticking point if you're playing in solo, I think.
God, that's interesting. But so, so when you said private, so there's offline, then there's public, and then you're just saying there's like a third party you can buy a server situation, probably like we do for Valheim.
Exactly. Yeah, you can rent a server for like $14
in game.
In game. I don't know if you can rent it that way. I think you have to go to an external website, but it's the same server provider that the company uses for their own servers. So you're getting like dedicated solid servers, but you can still host your own thing. I'm pretty sure they give you the software to set up your own thing if you have a system that you do it on. But
do you think it's the same? Like what I'm asking basically is I'm trying to figure out why they did this. So is it G Portal or is it someone else? Do you know who the company is? It is G Portal. So that's who we use, for instance, for our Valheim and here. Right. So I wonder did they have a deal with them maybe or something, like why they would create that situation. I guess I mean the only alternative as well is there's no way of like, I guess you could run the computer clock. You could check in on that and when the game loads and see how much time has passed, but maybe that's not what they want to do. Is there any other like I guess gameplay reasons why you think they're pushing towards the multiplayer aspect of this? Like, is it a type of game like Valheim that kind of is designed in a way where you need help with boss fights and stuff like that? Like it's hard to solo?
it's not impossible. I've been playing it solo for a while. Started playing with my buddy the other night. It's not too challenging. I think the thing is though that the PvP aspect of it is really interesting. Like the player interaction is really cool. They have voice, like proximity based voice in the game, which is awesome. Which the first time I played the game, I set up a character named Morbius because of course I did. And he's walking around. He's Morbin, and somebody else is there, and their name is like whatever the other guy's name is in Morbius. Morbius 2.
No.
Nobody's seen the movie, right? So
Venom?
he doesn't have a name. Yeah, probably Venom.
No. I've no
and he was standing there and he was playing the music from the scene in the movie that I don't know if you guys have seen.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't, but
everyone's seen that stupid
incredible
clip or heard the song anyways. And they're playing the song nonstop. They're standing there in front of their mansion and playing it on the voice proximity stuff. So like the interaction system's really cool. Like there's like poses you can do, like you can wave and you can bow and stuff, which is really cool. There's a global voice chat or global text chat rather, so you can interact with people. Like it feels sort of like you're playing a really small secluded MMO in like a very tiny server of 40 people. It's I think that's what they're going for, is they just want people to have those interactions and to have fun with it. But I don't know if they have it set up yet for it to be fun until they add a couple more things that make the PvE building more accessible.
All right, interesting, very interesting. Who else has played it?
I played
Anyone?
it. I played it for like 30 minutes or so, like late night. I will say, going into it, I didn't know what to expect, but I started, and it does again feel kind of like one of those Blizzard games like WoW or Diablo, where you start, you have those abilities, and then the engagement is like, okay, I did this thing. Okay, I want to try this now. I want to try this now. You get these abilities, and it seems really cool. It is kind of isometric. I saw a PC gamer tweet out, there's now a mod that lets you zoom in all the way, so you can be just like behind the shoulder, and the art style is like pretty cool. Like I like the art style. Jesse, I have a question. If you make a character, is it like Valheim where you can use that character in any server, or is it one character per server or whatever you make it for?
Yeah. If you make a character, it's stuck on the server that you made it on. Maybe, and I think that has to do with the persistence, right? Like if you make a mansion, you can't pick up your mansion and move it somewhere else, and that's the big thing you would lose, which sucks if you're playing on a public server that's not owned by the developers or operated by the developers, because if that server dies, you've lost all your progress, which happened to me. So.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Wild.
But whatever.
So, and when you say public, these are they other privately owned servers?
Yeah, that are run either through Gportal or I think they have to be run through Gportal. I'm not 100% on that, but they're run by people who aren't the developers that are just hosting the server and have it listed on the server list for V-Rising.
So, are there no servers that the developer has put up?
Yeah, like there's dedicated ones that are operated through Gportal that are run like they're official servers is what they're calling them. So yes.
Okay, official. Yeah. Okay, so presumably they won't go down
Hopefully.
in the game. So you just got to, yeah. Did you not go on one of those at the start? Did you go on like a?
Yeah, I saw beginner friendly and I was like, sure.
Okay.
But I didn't see the little official logo. I didn't know how that worked yet. So then I was like, oh, okay. Damn.
All right. Caveat emptor, Morbius is out there. Make sure you click on the new one. That's cool. I'm gonna check that out and see if it sounds really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a good candidate for a Noclip server actually, because it's kind of the type of game where you kind of want a walled garden maybe, like a small intimate one. That's neat. I like it. Good to hear it. What else we got on the game stuff? Oh yeah, Jeremy, we were gonna talk about this in LA and then we never did. But we spent most of the time we weren't on the podcast talking about this bizarre world of AI generated like imagery. Tell us a little bit about it, because I feel like we spent most of the weekend like messing around with stuff, and you've got access to some of these tools and they're kind of cosmically horrific.
Yeah, so AI generated imagery has been around for a while now, and it's always been like kind of interesting, but so let me start broader. Basically, it's a machine learning algorithm that studies a bunch of images and then has the ability to generate new images based on text prompts. So essentially, you can go to one of these AI image generators and type in Studio Ghibli's Totoro wearing a sundress, drinking a Mai Tai, and if the so I think they're called GANs. I think it's generative algorithmic network. I might be wrong on that, but they're machine learning. So if it's sufficiently trained, it will do its best to generate an image of the thing you describe. which, back in the day, everyone's seen like the Google Deep Dream stuff where it's like all the weird like dogs and eyeballs and stuff. They're all kind of like, it's like it has a very distinct style. And so as like a creative tool, as like a technological achievement, I was like, wow, this is very impressive. But as like a creative tool, I didn't really see the potential because it seemed very much like it would just kind of take a limited pool of training data and generate images against that. So anything you described would be generated in the, with like weird dogs and eyes and stuff all over it.
They had a look, didn't they? They had like a weird look of like there was lots of curves and layers and like it all kind of looked weirdly Cronenbergian or something.
Yeah, totally. And like off-putting, but not off-putting in a way where it was like, it didn't feel like anyone's artistic vision was to make it off-putting. It just seemed like a byproduct of the way that the machine learning worked. But
and it looked like a machine had made it. They look like computer-generated like images.
Exactly. So the reason this has come back on my radar recently is because so there's a bunch of different companies that do this. Google obviously has their Deep Dream stuff, and one of them is OpenAI, which is a San Francisco-based company that has a generative image algorithm or software or whatever called DALL-E, and that is DALL-E said like Salvador Dali, but it is spelled like Wall-E, the robot, which is very, very San Francisco tech culture. They're like, oh, it's cute. It's not dystopian.
No, yeah.
Also, massive fan of the private corporation that's called OpenAI.
OpenAI, yeah. More like closed AI. So they recently released DALL-E 2, and
Jesus,
and
sequel
it is
to Salvador Dali. Cool.
So the reason it caught my attention is because it is a limited pool of people who can actually use it right now. I think it's like 400 people. They said they're going to start rolling out new invites, but they're being very selective with who actually gets access for it. And the reason for that is because it is an incredibly powerful photorealistic version of the previous image generators. And what I mean by that is previously you could, say like Elon Musk, having sex with a horse or whatever, and it would try its best, but it would not produce a believable image of Elon Musk fucking a horse as much as you wanted it to.
You wouldn't have to. You could just Google that, I feel like.
Well, that notwithstanding, DALL-E 2 is sufficiently powerful that it like realistically could. So there are images going around for people who have access to DALL-E 2 now. One of my favorites is one I showed Danny, which I'll post it in the Noclip Discord or something, but it's I think the prompt was Pikachu opening a pack of Pokemon cards.
Oh man.
And it generates 10 images of a little like plastic statuette of Pikachu with various phases of excitement opening boxes of Pokemon cards. And maybe like 8 out of the 10 of them, if I didn't see them in this context, I would think that it was like a photo shoot of a little Pikachu statuette opening Pokemon cards.
It's wild. It's really wild.
Mm-hmm. It is so realistic looking. If you look at some of them a little closer, eventually you'll realize like little inconsistencies and imperfections, like the design on the back of the Pokemon cards isn't quite right and stuff like that. But the way that our perception works, where we kind of like wallpaper over the things that are like the secondary details, it really like if you're not looking at these things and thinking, is that an AI image? Which I think is a thought process that we will all be going through a lot more regularly in the near future. Like having messed with this stuff for a few weeks now, I swear to God, people will post art and I'll be like, is that AI generate? Like it's real. It's messing with my head in the same way that
what's happening?
What is real? Well, so that's kind of the one of the many interesting things about this is that OpenAI, their whole thing is like, and I mean, take this as good faith as you want to take it, but their whole thing is like, we have to be very careful with AI because if we develop a super AI and release it onto the world, it could be catastrophic. And so I imagine their line of thinking is that they can't just give this to everyone because essentially anyone who there are sufficient images of on the internet to train the AI on, you could just generate theoretically infinite blackmail of them. And so in a world where like every image is potentially fake, it's like the post-truth reality that we exist in now is augmented times 100 because like you can't even trust your eyes looking at stuff, which, I mean, I think we're slowly shifting into that landscape. But
the idea that they don't want to like release this to people, like now is very funny because like what's the end game?
Yeah.
Because it's only going to get better and they're only going to give it to more people. So like I guess maybe it's, you know, private access, but then that seems even more terrifying.
Yeah, it definitely becomes like a technocracy situation where it's like, are there like a privileged elite few who have access to the tool that could ruin
Elon
us
Musk
all?
fucking horses.
Yeah, I if I ever want access to DALL-E 2, I shouldn't have made that joke, by the way, because Elon Musk was one of the people who originally paid to help found OpenAI. So of
course.
DALL-E 2, if you guys are listening, I'm actually super down with tech and bros and tech bros. But the thing that interests me more about all of this generative image stuff is that I think it has a capability to be used by creative people and artists in a way that is really interesting. And it's kind of like, so I think I need to like in before this with like a caveat and say that I think that a lot of creative people will look at this and be like, okay, I've trained to be an illustrator or an artist or a painter or photographer or whatever for 30 years. I'm really good at it. And like, there's something meaningful that comes from the human process of creativity that will be lost if everyone can just generate endless art. And I think that is a discussion worth having, but I have a slightly more optimistic view on it. I think that there will and already are people who will be using this to generate endless NFTs. I guarantee it. Like I've already seen people who are like, I'm an artist, and then all their stuff is very obviously AI generated. And I think that's like, I don't know. I think that I don't think that we should all of a sudden be like, yeah, if you're like a prompt engineer, if you're really good at telling the AI what to draw, you're on equal.
Oh, that's gonna be a job at some point, huh? Fuck.
It totally is.
Or not. I keep going. Yeah.
I was just going to say that like the prompt engineering is a huge part of it too, because as I've been messing with more of these, there are the different generative algorithms, they like different syntax. So for example, if you want a photograph that's very clear, the way you need to, you can't just say like a fisherman. You need to say like a high resolution photograph of a fisherman, comma, his face is clearly visible, comma, you know, in the style of Ansel Adams or whatever. Like it's the more detail you give it, the more it has to work off of. Otherwise it has to like get creative, and that's where it gets into the uncanny valley stuff. But so there are already people who are like, I'm an artist, and they just like take the AI stuff and put it up. And some of it's really good. Like that's the funny thing is, you know, there is a conservative impulse in me to be like, that's not art. Stop that. Somebody stop that guy. But I think that the interesting use of this will be to generate inspiration, like because I think that as I've been learning 3D modeling over the last year or so, what I've realized is that the best 3D modelers in the world use reference constantly. Like it's not cheating to look at a photograph of like a woman in a particular pose and then do like a drawing or 3D model or something based on that pose for the proportions, for like the relationship of the geometry in space, and like just to get it looking and feeling right. That's not cheating. And so I think that the AI generated imagery will be really, like, for example, I was modeling a character over the weekend that had armored shoulder pads, and I was trying to make them kind of like interesting and sci-fi looking. And so I went to DALL-E Mini, which is one of the publicly available old versions of DALL-E that's trained on a way smaller base of images and is way less sophisticated. And I just started generating like cyberpunk assassins to see what the AI would spit out. And it legitimately gave me a lot of really good ideas of like how to kind of like layer the armor in ways I wouldn't have thought of and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's not like I took any of those and was like, I'm putting this image in my game.
What you're talking about is what graphic designers do all the time, which is like what I've been a graphic designer in summer. I used to be my profession. I basically still do it all the time because I'm creating assets for Noclip, even stuff like thumbnails, stuff like that. And like what you're talking about is basically a more interesting version of Google image search, because when you're like coming up with ideas, or I have like reference books. I have loads of books in my room. I have books that are dedicated to logos or typography or any of that sort of stuff. And it doesn't happen as much in video editing because like, I guess that would be stock footage, but you already know what you want. But when it comes to like graphic design stuff, that is like 100% part of the equation. Or like you said, 3D modeling, you're going off and you're, you know, looking at stuff. You're basically trying to get the juices flowing creatively. Yeah. And when we were messing around with the thing in LA, like it was the same thing in my head. It was like, oh, this is just like a way more interesting version of Google. Not just, but it is definitely also a way more interesting version of going into Google image search and just casting terms in there to hopefully help you. The problem being that like Google Images creates art that's already been made. So you're just seeing other people's work. It's also like kind of coning it. So it's like trying to get you the most accurate version of what you want. So it's already like limiting the sort of like possibility space of what that is. Whereas this stuff, when you were like typing stuff in and it was coming up with the most crazy things, I was like, oh my God, like, yeah, this is like, it's eye-opening rather than sort of like filtering, which I feel like the brainstorming on a lot of like Google image search it works like.
Yeah, absolutely. It broadens, instead of like searching a shoulder pad and then narrowing it into one type of, shoulder pad or whatever. It's like you can just endlessly generate types of armored shoulder pads or weird laser rifles and I mean like even the less sophisticated ones like Dolly Mini, and there's one called Disco Diffusion and stuff. They're really quite good. Like they're not as good as the Dolly 2 stuff where you're going to look at it and think it's like a photograph, but they're good enough to kind of, in the same way that when you look at pixel art, you're kind of like, oh cool, like that little piece, that white pixel and the blue pixel on his chest is like the armor glinting, and it lets your brain fill in the rest. I kind of think the murky images from the lower quality generators are almost more useful as reference, because you're not directly taking from them. There was like a little gray square on the midriff of a character that I was using for inspiration, and I decided to make it into like a little ammo bag and stuff. And it's like
cool.
it's not an idea I would have had on my own, but it's also not an idea that I'd like lifted from a piece of reference. It's somewhere in the between. What it reminds me the most of is in the days of Socrates, they used to talk about a Socratic daemon, which like demon, but DAE. And what the daemon was essentially like a voice in the head that was very normal, that like most of these people had, especially like the philosophers and artists of the day, and they would like converse with like an internal voice. So you'd be like, this math problem is really hard, and then like a voice in the head would be like, oh, what if you tried it this way? And I think that in some ways we are creating like okay, so not to get too occult about this, but I'm very interested in like alchemy and occultism and all these things, and I think that largely the utility of all of those things isn't that you're actually tapping into some sort of like external magical network that's giving you power. I think that the interesting thing about things like alchemy and tarot and stuff is that it's externalizing your psychology. It's taking what's in your brain and it's putting it out before you, and it's letting you like get in touch with parts of your thought process or your unconscious mind that you might not otherwise. I don't think it's magic. I just think it's like it's probing your psychology in interesting ways. And I think that the relationship that a lot of people, especially creative people, could potentially have to AI generated imagery, as well as like there's really the same company does a text AI that's incredibly good. Like you can type in, give me 10 ideas for a YouTube video, and it'll give you 10 like pretty good ideas for YouTube videos. I think that the relationship
Elon Musk fucking a horse.
that's all 10 results.
Be good.
I think that they're putting yourself in conversation with this thing as opposed to taking its art and calling it my art. Yeah. I think the more interesting thing is using it as a collaborator. Yeah, like to bounce ideas off of.
Totally. Yeah, there's a lot going on like with the way that it works, like just the technology. There's this video that Vox put out today as we're recording this. You guys will hear this will be a couple days ago. That goes into the technology behind it, how it works and everything. It's very interesting. I won't belabor it too much because I think what Jeremy said there was awesome, but just give it a watch. They explain how they get the information. I thought they were like throwing images at this thing on purpose. No, they're pulling the alt data from photos on websites because they describe, for people who need system readers and stuff, they'll use that, like assistant voice things. They'll use that text that people use for images to like man wearing hat on balcony. The way that we're talking to this machine to generate images is the same thing that they're using. So
otherwise the image, it doesn't know what the image is.
Exactly.
So that's how searching works on Google as well. Yeah. It's all metadata.
Right.
When the metadata sort of revolution happened, it basically changed the way the internet used to work. Because when we were first on the internet back in like whatever early, like we're a shade younger or older than you are, none of that stuff existed. So that means searching was basically only within text. And it also meant that like stuff like YouTube, for instance, like none of that stuff really worked very well because there wasn't like multiple layers of metadata. Like I remember when tagging became a thing, you know what I mean? YouTube was only for forever, like the internet was only based on text. And then it was very much based on like how much of that text was actually searchable based on how the website was built. So like getting to stuff was more like a phone booth where like somebody would tell you a website and then you'd go to that website and then you'd bookmark stuff. Whereas like all that metadata is completely changed. It just totally changed how the internet works and how we use it. So it's what I'm interested in is how much of that there must be like, are they manually tagging stuff? Because there's not enough metadata on most imagery to get like a really good approximation. Or Jeremy was bringing up one thing, all of our cultural biases are also within that metadata because it's produced by humans. So presumably it's creating a lot of racist robots.
I was just going to say that's part of the reason that OpenAI or the DALL-E 2 is only available to a limited pool of participants is because OpenAI has openly admitted that they're so open, has admitted that the cultural biases and like stereotypes are reified by this. So for, the example they give is if you type in a CEO, you'll get like a white guy in a suit. And if you type in a secretary, you'll get like a younger woman and like things like that. But I think that the sort of like pessimistic view on that is like, holy shit, the AI is going to be racist. And I think the optimistic view on that is that tools like this that can kind of like aggregate that much data and then like kind of like give us little blips of it from all of that data being analyzed in its like digital brain. I think it's an interesting mirror for our culture. And I think that okay, so this is what I was thinking. I was thinking that, how people will like complain if there's like a black woman in Star Wars, people will be like, oh, they're woken up Star Wars and stuff. I think that what those people are noticing that they're complaining about is the deviation from normalcy.
Yeah.
And I think that it will be interesting to see how the AI is able to pinpoint the tokenization of marginalized people, because I think that if you I think the best case scenario for normalizing marginalized people is just to like have movies with people of color in them, have movies with queer people in them, things like this. But I think if you ask the AI for a person that is not like if you ask it for a marginalized person, it will almost certainly give you a tokenized version. Like I think that if you ask for a photograph of a gay man, it is more likely to give you a photograph of like a pride parade or something.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think that in order to normalize marginalized people, in order to legitimize their existence, and in order to like say, hey, we exist and there's nothing wrong with that and that's like totally fine, I think that there is a need to kind of like to demonstrate, like that's what the point of like a pride parade is, to be like we're like here and we exist and we're like normal people who are like fine and like do cool things. But it is interesting that the AI will aggregate those images and like by default like tokenize people because of that. So in an interesting way, it's like a mirror for how we perceive norms of our culture and how we like have to hang a flag on things that deviate from them until they become new norms.
So that's true, and I agree totally. But like the big problem and the thing that I'm seeing in this video, the things that I've seen looking into voice generated AI stuff, is that once these things get big enough, you kind of can't go in there and turn the knobs. Like there's so many things that we're going to see that we know now that we can look at and say, that's obviously bad. Like in that video that Vox put out, they talk about how if you search Asian or Asian woman, the first thing that came up for some of these older ones was literally just porn, just a sea of like AI generated porn, which is messed up.
Wild.
And that's stuff that we'll
Yeah.
know now to go in and say, don't do that. Or like look for different data, because the set is small enough and we can still kind of tinker with it. But once these sets get big enough and once they evolve enough, it becomes really, really hard to turn the dials, especially even in something like DALL-E, which has like 500 points of data or something that they pull for each photo. Once that gets bigger, once that reaches 1,000 or 2,000, going in and making adjustments to things, who knows how difficult that could be in the realm of machine learning. I agree with you. Absolutely. Yeah. But as things change, our understandings and our acceptances of different social norms that'll change over time. And how do you implement that in a system? Pessimistic.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll care about it that way, because the way you guys are talking about it is kind of different to the way I perceive it. Whereas I don't see these things, like I think the word like machine learning sort of like imbues it with a sort of sense of otherness that isn't earned. These are just systems that are based on human perception of things.
Yeah, it's
so
descriptive.
They're always going to be like machine learning sort of gives it this flavor that it is some sort of like disconnected observer of our reality, whereas like it's actually like a sort of hyper-focused version of a particular version of reality, which is probably, you know, white tech bros
Yeah,
or like
exactly.
or people who are on the internet in the West.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like and who what that means and all those things. But like, you know, do we criticize Google Images when we type in something and it presents us with something that is bad? You know what I mean? That we deem as morally not right. We don't, because we see it as a tool. We think it's not great and that we'll try and take those edges off, but we don't imbue it with this sort of sense of like purpose and meaning that it needs to shave those things off. So I do wonder, like over the course of time, as culture changes and as people's interactions with these tools changes, will the sensitivity to those aspects level off? Because people will like learn to use the system the way that it works rather than want this thing to be like a purist version of itself or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No, I think that the cultural biases and stereotypes thing of it is like, I think it's most interesting as like a mirror for the way that that our culture like relates to visual information. And I think
Is Google Images not the same thing though?
well, yeah, no, totally, 100%. But there is something that feels like weirdly, tangibly different about because I guess Google Images is. I'm trying to think of like what the difference is.
Well, there's a degree of authoring, right? Like you do have some control.
That's
as
true. The
input
AI is
user.
generating
yeah,
new
like you're not
images.
typing like Pokemon and you're getting pictures that someone else uploaded of Pokemon. Like this thing is going, here's what a Pokemon looks like.
It's
So it
trying
feels
to,
more like you did.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe.
Totally.
maybe, yeah. It feels like the reason it feels different to me is because it is taking, instead of trying to best match against what's out there, it's taking what's out there and trying to like pull something new out of the ether. And so in some way it's like essentializing it anew. Like it's like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like
you've created racism.
yeah.
It's not like you typed something in and then like accidentally found something that was like,
Yeah.
and then you sort of like, you know, oh, it was a misunderstanding. I landed on something that wasn't meant to be. It's like you have pulled out of the ether this awful thing.
Yeah, you convinced the AI that you wanted like racist image. You're like, no, dude, I'm not like that. It's like it's not like, yeah, no. I mean, I think it's like, it interests me in that way as a cultural mirror, in the same way that I think having like a you know, some people will talk about like taking mushrooms one time in their life and they're like, oh man, I realized that like I was doing this wrong and I like gotta like straighten up and do this better, and like I'm not nice enough to my mom and like stuff like that. And I think that in a weird way, like the word, again, not to get too fucking occultist on this, but the word psychedelic means mind manifesting. That is it's psyche manifesting. And I think in a weird way, the AI is like culture-delic. Like it's manifesting culture in a way that's like putting it out in front of us like tarot cards, and we can be like instead of blaming the AI for, it's not that we're making a racist AI, it's that the AI is showing us that our culture of symbols is inherently racist because of the way it normalizes certain things.
So why does Joe Rogan still think the things he does after all that DMT?
Well, no, that's the funny thing is I've been as someone who was very into psychedelics and psychedelic culture and philosophy for a while, I've been somewhat black-pilled on it, because I think that the kind of like end thing you realize is that if you don't take revelations and then integrate them into your life, all you become is a person who has the experience of feeling like a revelatory experience, and then you just add it to your ego in the same way that you add to your ego, like I climbed a mountain, I went to like I did this. I think it can just become like it's Shogyam Trungpa calls it spiritual materialism. You're just adding trinkets to the mantle of your ego.
It does sort of dump the idea, and we're getting a little bit into the weeds here, I guess. It does sort of I don't know, lay some cynicism on the idea that when you have these experiences with like DMT or mushrooms, that you are communing with some sort of higher power, when like maybe it's all you, man. And maybe when some of these vapid dipshits have, you know, their high is some surface level nonsense that's not the sort of introspection that maybe that you enjoy when you do these things.
Yeah, no, I think it is interacting with autonomous portions of your psyche is probably that's the Occam's razor explanation of that stuff.
Where should people go if they want to see some of these images? Are you tweeting some of this stuff, or is there a couple of websites like shorthand they can go to?
I've been tweeting a couple things that I've generated. If you're interested, go to OpenAI. If you just Google DALL-E 2, DALL-E-2. Their website has a bunch of good examples on it. There's a subreddit for DALL-E 2 where people post stuff they make. And yeah, look up if you want to try it for yourself. The one that I like is DALL-E Mini. I think is hosted by a website called Hugging Face. But if you just look up,
face
I know, I feel like it's a Half-Life face.
No.
Fan
Face
size.
hugger.
Yeah.
But yeah, look up DALL-E Mini. You can type it in. You can toy with it. It's like and try a bunch of different stuff. The first ones you make will be super janky, but you'll like learn the syntax it likes and what kinds of images it can do really well. It's really good at armor. If you type in like a cybernetic helmet from hell, it's like the coolest thing ever. But oh yeah, and the one thing it can't do very well is text. So if you even DALL-E 2, even the best one, someone just posted a Waffle House generated image in our chat, and it says things like Watte Café and Waffle Hose.
It's a whole thread of just like bad logos. It's so funny.
Yeah, they do look like Waffle House logos, but none of them read Waffle House. That's pretty good. Yeah, it's hard to sort of like grok some of this without looking at them. So go check those out. So we have a bunch of emails and other chat sort of around here about game collection, because I think, Frank, you were grabbing some games last week. I also went to a secondhand game shop in LA called World 8. I went to one of their spots to grab some bits and bobs. What do you got brewing over here?
Yeah, so Sunday I had a friend from out of town who wanted to basically buy out every interesting game in Southern California. So we devised, my group of friends, we devised a big gamer trip where we hit up like 8 different game shops across Southern California. And, we met up early in the morning. We had pancakes and stuff like that. We hit up Book Off, which is my local place. Book Off is awesome. I like it more so for comic books and stuff. But we found some games. Book Off is like always pretty decently priced. But yeah, it'd been a while since I actually got really into retro game collecting. Last time I really wanted to get stuff was like a decade ago when it was like, oh, I want to check out some of these games. Now, post-COVID, we saw how insane the market is for video game collections and prices, and
nuts.
Oh my gosh, what happened to everything?
Yeah.
So we walk into Book Off and we see a GameCube copy of this game called Cubivore with a price tag of $750.
No.
Oh my god,
that game sucks.
It's like, well, yeah, okay.
I've never even heard of it.
We see Japanese Yoshi's Island CD, the soundtracks, like factory sealed, $1,000, and it's like, what? This is this. I mean, like, no one's gonna buy that. Whatever. So I bought some. I bought Army of Two for $10 on 360. We go to another store. We go to Lost Levels in Fullerton, which is a pretty cool place that's half an arcade. And then, we start seeing, sealed Super Nintendo games for, $200, like, kind of generic stuff like Mortal Kombat 3 and other things. And it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on?
Yeah.
At Lost Levels, I picked up Top Gun Fire at Will for PS1 for only $10. So, you can still find forgotten licensed games cheap. But, yeah, as we kept going to more shops, I kind of got, depressed of, I saw all of these games that I had as a kid, but now going for so much, like a ridiculous value. We went to another store where they had a bunch of, again, games complete in box, and they were asking for $300 for games. And then in the back of my head, I start thinking wait a minute. Okay, I have some of these games. I don't care about that much. Maybe is now the time to sell. And so the whole day we were eager to buy stuff, but we didn't really buy that many games because everything was so expensive, which I think was an effect of COVID, also the YouTube generation of people making videos and the whole Jake Paul Pokemon card phenomenon.
Yeah.
In terms of actual pickups, I did pick up DJ Hero.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Which I had never played before, and even
it's so good.
Yeah, even a year ago on the podcast, I talked about getting back into Guitar Hero, picked up the controllers. But one of the best places we discovered was Game Dude up in LA, which is a pretty popular store. It's in North Hollywood. But yeah, I got DJ Hero 1 and 2 and the controller on 360 for $30, and I started playing that, and I enjoyed that. At a different store, I saw there's a place that had 2 copies of Devil's Third, which I think is the rarest Wii U game, which was Itagaki, the guy who made Dead or Alive and Ninja Gaiden. It was like this bizarre Wii U game of I don't know, like an assassin, and it's hyper violent. I've actually played the game because you can still buy it digitally on the Wii U eShop, and it's not bad. I feel like if Devil's Third came out on PS3, 360, or even remastered, it would actually get fandom because I do enjoy it. One game I found that I'd never heard of before was a game called Snood on Game Boy Advance. Snood. Okay. So we walk into a game shop, Video Game Geeks in like Anaheim, and everything is like pretty clean. Most of the stores you go to, all the good stuff is gone. Any deals, people have gotten there before us. It's like Waterworld. There's no cheap deals.
Oh my God.
Dry land.
Yeah.
Dry land. I was at Universal last week, so I've got Waterworld on the brain here.
So we see this sealed Game Boy Advance game called Snood, and the box art looks like it was made in MS Paint or like Kid Pics.
Dude, this game is free to play on Steam.
Yes. So we look at Snood, like, what the hell is Snood? It's only $10. It made all of us laugh. So my friend Carlos bought the copy of Snood, and we start looking at the box, and on the back it's like, forget life, play Snood. Snood rules. All of this is written in Comic Sans, and it's like the shareware sensation that's sweeping college campuses from California to Maine is now available on Game Boy Advance. It's the Snood you love.
Dude, it's Bubble Bobble.
Yeah, it's just, so that's what like confused me. Is like it says like, oh, Davis Dingus back in like, I don't know, 1994 created this sensation of Snood, and it's you just reskin Bust-A-Move. What the hell?
What did you say, Davis Dingus?
Davis Dingus. I think his name is David Dobson.
Yeah,
I don't know.
For a second, I was like, wow.
According to Steam, the developer is Snood LLC.
So then we find out the Snood universe. There's Snood 2, Snood's on Vacation, which was released for DS and Game Boy Advance.
God.
We found out, that it's on Steam. I found out it's a shareware game, so it's been on a bunch of Macs. I guess apparently there's been millions of Snood players. Snood even appears in Sopranos, but I just can't like Snood. Yeah. So there's a quick throwaway shot in Sopranos where a guy's playing a crappy game on his laptop, and Snood looks like the type of game that would be a fake game in an old TV show.
It's like a Law and Order, like the perp was playing Snood when he got him.
Yeah, but I did play Snood on Steam. Even the in-game menus, everything is like it looks like a Newgrounds Flash game. But so I'm super into Snood, which I discovered because of it. But yeah, going through game collecting, we came back home from the trip, and I started looking at my game collection. Funny enough, my friend Ryan, one thing he wanted to buy was Twilight Princess on GameCube, and the market value of that is now $100. Wow. And my thought is like, I don't care. Here you go. So I sold it to my friend for $100, and now I'm looking at all my games, being like, okay, what's some stuff I don't care
Frank's
about?
retirement fund.
Yeah. No, right. Because I want to get like a hard. Because like I'm all in on like digital and emulation, so I want to get like a hardcore gaming PC this year. So it's like if I can sell some stuff I don't care about and start putting some stuff towards a PC, I'd be down. But yeah, that led to a question I wanted to ask the Noclip community everywhere on the podcast is, what's your game collection like? Are there any relics you've carried out through your life? Is there anything you seek out? What's like the prize jewel in your collection? On my hand, I think the two most valuable games, which wasn't that much 10 years ago, but I have on survival horror games on PS2, there's two games I own complete in box. It's Haunting Ground and Rule of Rose. And I saw there's an eBay auction of both of those going for $1,200.
Whoa.
I don't think I'd ever part with them just because I think it is the rarest game in my collection. And it's like, okay, that's kind of cool. But yeah, Rule of Rose, which is okay. I played it, but Haunting Ground is amazing. That game rules. And I hope that gets remastered. But I'm curious what everyone else has in their collection.
And you guys have any standouts?
I was looking for Project Rainfall, those 3 games that came out on the Wii for quite a while at like reasonable prices. That's kind of the thing. I don't own a lot of like rare games or any rare games for that matter. It's a lot of Nintendo stuff. That's my girlfriend's really into. So I tend to look for that stuff. The things that I tend to have are just really good deals. Like I remember I got, 3 in-box Pokemon games for the DS. I think Platinum, Diamond, and Silver. I got on the DS box with the manuals and Mario Kart Double Dash box manual for $5 each from this like
nice
weed shop down the street that I guess just like buys people stuff and sells them weed. It's great. They're like, I don't know what this is worth. It's a stupid video game. Here's 1 gram of weed. Here you go. Like, so I lucked out. That's all I've got though.
I've got a bunch of original Super Nintendo games from back in the day, just stuff I played as a kid, like Earthbound and stuff that's inherently valuable, but nothing that's like sealed in a box and like cared for in a hermetically sealed museum case, except for my prized copy of Snood 3, Send Snoods.
Oh my God.
Send Snoods.
Oh, Snoods.
Leaked Snoods.
Yeah, I'm going through my eBay listings here because we buy a lot of boxes for the B-roll. I have a bunch of orders of stuff coming in right now. See if you can guess who we might be doing a documentary on. I have a $20. I'll say name of the game and how much it cost me. Okay, just to see, and you can see how the fucking stuff adds up. Total Eclipse, which is an old 3DO game, $20. Tomb Raider 3, the Trapezoid box, I got that for $30. That was actually a pretty good deal. Tomb Raider Last Revelation, Trapezoid box, $25. I got some good deals. Some of these aren't bad actually, because some of the Trapezoid boxes we have back here for other games like Thief, I think Thief cost me $150 or something. And I think Thief 2 was probably the same. That they were quite expensive. Tomb Raider PC, just the old jewel case, $6. Gex on the 3DO, $33. Tomb Raider Legend, $15. Akuji the Heartless on PlayStation 1, $20. So some of these are like, there's a Tomb Raider Gold one here, Trapezoid box. Tomb Raider Gold is in the re-release of the game after they tweaked some shit and probably did some patches. Because patches did exist before the internet, people. You just had to get them on CD cover discs. That was $40. So not that bad. I'm trying to see if any of these are crazy expensive. What was the last one? I got the Unreal Tournament strategy guide that I have here was only $20. That was pretty good. I think the most expensive thing I own, I don't know, I have that sealed copy of Quake 3, the Steelbook one, which has never been opened, which Tim Willits handed me from his drawer. Frank was there. He just opened this big drawer in his office in it and handed us one. And I was like, oh my God, fucking hell. Maybe that. And I also have what else do I have? I have a totally sealed special edition for Cyberpunk. Which is just which is because they sent me 2 by accident. So I had one and I kept the other one in a box.
I have like a few autographed games. The weirdest thing I have in my collection is I have an autographed copy of The Last Guardian by that developer. I forget his name, because there was a period where I forgot. Like, I don't want to mess it up. I think
By
it's like
that
Fuji Ueda. I forget. Yeah, and I have an autographed poster of like Final Fantasy VI by Sakaguchi. There was an era where I was like hanging out with Mega 64, working with them, and every year we go to GDC and make a video with a famous developer. And so Ueda of Last Guardian, we filmed a video in like in a tiny hotel room, and I just went up meekly and being like, "Here you go, can you sign this?" And so it's like February 2018. And he autographed my copy of Last Guardian. So it's like, well, I'm never.
Amazing.
That's incredible. I have Metal Gear Solid HD collection autographed by the voice actor of Colonel Campbell, because he randomly spoke at a film class at Cal State Fullerton, and I looked at the syllabus and I'm like, I don't think anyone else in this classroom knows or cares who the hell this guy is. Paul Eiding, and he gave a really good lecture about voice acting. I was like, can you sign my game? I was a dork, but he was and he added me on Facebook and was like, hey kid, thanks so much. And then I probably have some other autograph stuff too, but
I think the ones that I have that are most expensive, I've just gone through some of them here. Like I said, Thief 1 was 100 actually, and Thief 2 was 150. Is the oh shit, I had it there a second ago. Where's it gone? I have a bunch of Amiga games. So some of them are ones that I own myself, and some are ones that I've bought since. I have a copy of Secret of Monkey Island with like the wheel, the like dial-up pirate wheel and everything, which I think was 150. A bunch of the ones I had to get for that Giant Bomb show I had were really expensive. Haunting starring Poltergeist was $160.
That game was $160.
I know. It was Body
really
Harvest for the DMA one was $100.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
Tomba 2, which I did for that series too, was $175.
What
for the
hell?
PlayStation 1. Yeah, for PS1
Jesus.
game. And I couldn't do expenses when I was doing all that work for Red Ventures. So I just take it on the chin.
I don't know if this is like dollar valuable, but one of my prized possessions is in terms of video game stuff, is a copy of the Mugenics comic from like a decade ago that Ed McMillan gave me as a gift when we were chilling one time.
Oh, wow.
Chilling.
Oh my
we were
God.
doing a work thing at his house and he gave it to me.
That's amazing.
Nice.
Oh my
It's really
God.
cool. Way before it was like a tactics RPG, way
it's like-
back in the day.
Yeah, when it was first announced, it was a whole different thing. It's wild.
Yeah.
We got some messages from some of our intrepid followers, emailers, and all that sort of stuff. Let's go through a couple of them here because we're running a little bit long. Frostmite says, what's CIB mean again?
Complete inbox. That's like the box, the manual, and the game.
Awesome. Conquer's Bad Fur Day, CIB. From
Oh,
Frostmite.
nice.
That's pretty good.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Harmadi Josh says, signed 2007 Prey Collector's Edition. Yeah, it was signed by the art team. I was looking
Yeah,
at that.
someone I think is like wife's like someone in his family was a concept artist, and it had the whole dev team signed it, which is really cool.
The Honeybene says complete Virtual Boy collection. $1.5 grand. Is that what they said?
That's for one game, an Atlas game called the Jack Bros, which I had never heard about. But that one game, yeah, the Jack Bros.
That AI generated. Yeah.
Leave it to Atlas to make something weird and horny.
Gene37 has a near complete Dreamcast collection.
Wow.
Baller Swag Sword has digital archive from FromSoft material. 200. Sorry, that's not actually a collection. That was just them saying that there is that link. Yeah, we should retweet that or something. There's like a bunch on archive.org. They're basically uploading a bunch of that sort of stuff, which is pretty cool. And then at 3D Big Box Games has a giant wall of PC boxes. Is that their website? Bigboxcollection.com.
It's a pretty cool archive. They have 1 million like PC big boxes, and then they also digitally scanned everything, so you can zoom in, put all the details. So that might be a really cool resource.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh,
yeah,
they have like all the sides
these.
of it. Yeah, that's sick.
Sorry. So this is a whole website you can go to, bigboxcollection.com. This is pretty neat. There's a Bioforge there. It's pretty good. On that, Frank, do you want to read this Discord question we got from Grid?
Yeah. Grid says, hi, looking for advice. I have a collection of old consoles, games, and accessories that we'll likely never use again, but I don't want to get rid of them. Selling is hard, giving away is harder, and keeping them boxed up forever feels bad. What do you do? So that's kind of the situation I am. For a lot of like low tier stuff that's like, I'm not going to get that much for it. I just took it to Book Off, which is a California chain, and Hawaii and New York. They give you decent prices for stuff. But now, even in my own personal Discord of like friends and Twitch community, I'm making like a swap meet thread or a swap meet channel where it's like, hey, everyone in our community is like pretty tight and close. So if you guys want to sell, I sold to my friend Ryan. So I would say like, I don't know, maybe talk to your friends, giving away stuff as like gifts. So I have so many books and comic books. And so now I'm at the part now where it's like, I like giving books as presents. So yeah, I don't know, Grid, talk to your friends, talk to even within your own Discord channels. I feel like if there's a personal connection, feel free to even tweet. You can even just put stuff on Twitter, and there's people who will like just search for stuff.
Yeah. If it's not too old, children's hospitals.
I was just about to say
the only problem, is if they don't have access to the technology to play old games, it might be hard.
That's what I'm saying. Depending on how old it is, yeah.
That's true. Yeah, if you got like a PS3 or later with some games,
yeah,
give it to some kids. I was thinking, I was looking at the podcast doc ahead of time, and that's the thought I had is like, where could you give this joy machine to the people most in need of like distraction and joy? And I was like, yeah, that's like a pediatric hospital is like a pretty concentrated location of like joy from games, I bet.
It's gonna have to be like post PS3 when you have wireless controllers and stuff though, because all that stuff is a nightmare.
They're like wiring it all over to like a hospital ward becomes like a hazard because there's PS3 controller wires everywhere.
Man, those wires were never long enough either. Great, stick some of those in the Discord as well, and if there's any good ones, maybe some of our community will reach out. I'll take a look myself as well. Dylan says, hi, I love the podcast and all you guys do. I didn't really get into collecting games until just a few years ago when I bought a PS1 for nostalgia's sake. But boy, I love PS1 games. I love the dual CD cases. I love the booklets. I love the weird coarse textures and all the discs have on the front. They even feel very hefty and worthwhile. Nice to hold. I don't have any crazy rare ones, but I love playing Spyro and Medieval with my very cool translucent blue controller. What is your favorite like game box for like just having? Because like Dylan's talking a lot about mouthfeel here, like aesthetic and weight and all that sort of stuff. It's weird because I hate the American PlayStation boxes because they're just like regular ass CD boxes, whereas in Europe they were like super thick. They were like 3 times as thick. Every single one of them was. Yeah. What are some of your favorites?
My favorite box, I do have the World of Warcraft like physical PC edition that I got like 2006, and what I love it is when you open it up, it has like the loading screen, like the enter the portal thing, and there's textures on it. You can feel the World of Warcraft on it. So the World of Warcraft physical box is gorgeous. Yeah,
that's a good one. Here's you guys can see it there. This is a European copy of Wipeout 2947, which is like nice.
Oh wow.
They're all that
nice.
thick, yeah, and then
That's
obviously
way better.
the jewel case for the for the other one, yeah. So they were all this big, and then you guys had the greatest hits ones that were super tall.
Oh yeah.
Whereas we didn't. In Europe, they were just these regular ass PlayStation ones, but they had the Platinum Collection silver lining on them.
This is going to sound unhinged, but I don't have a particular game case that I really like, but I was doing Gamebox B-roll filming for Noclip, like a month or so ago, and the smell of a bunch of like PC game boxes.
Oh yeah.
Like transported me to being in Babbage's, which was like the game store at the mall in like the 90s, early 2000s. And it was like like all of a sudden I was like standing next to a copy of Leisure Suit Larry in like a Babbage's, and it was 1999. I've never played Leisure Suit Larry. I just remember it being there because it was like a weird sexual artifact of games. But it was bizarre. Like just the smell of a game case like transported me. It was someone needs to make a cologne that's just called like EB Games.
Oh, the Babbage's.
Yeah.
I love it.
I also like how sleek and nice Dreamcast cases are. Just because they're white, they look gorgeous.
Frank's turned into a robot again. He's got to pull out some. He's go to Babbage's and get himself a new XLR.
Also, can we talk about the fact that Babbage's is like it's like naming a bookstore after the guy who invented paper. Like it's a little weird to call it Babbage's. The father
who's Babbage?
I think Charles Babbage, the father of modern computing.
Is it really?
Is that it?
I believe so.
It's like Einstein Bros bagels. If Einstein had invented bagels.
Charles Babbage, a mathematician, philosopher, inventor, mechanical engineer, originated the concept of a digital programmable computer.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, he died in 1871, so I don't think he got PlayStation.
We got a bunch of emails, but I'm running out of time because I got a meeting in a second. So let's take one or two more. Ian James says, "Hi, Noclip. I was listening to episode 68 and Jeremy referenced the game genre of set the board and watch it play out. And it got me thinking about gratuitous space battles. In that game, you choose an alien race / faction. You customize your ships and then you pick a mission. You can place them how you want in a designated starting zone and hit play. And then you watch all your little fighters have dogfights while the big cruisers shoot missiles and lasers and all that good stuff. I thought it was a blast and sounded like something Jeremy would be into. I have played gratuitous tank battles. I've never played gratuitous space battles. Jeremy, you ever given it a go?
No, I've never even heard of this, but I am Googling it. It looks up my alley. Yeah, I like games where you're just kind of like doing the ant farm thing, where you're like doing inputs and kind of like watching it play out. I'll check this out. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate the recommendation.
And speaking of recommendations, the other way around, Ryan emails in, on this group's recommendation, I tried and absolutely loved Inscription.
Yes.
I quickly jumped onto Pony Island and again loved it. When I was ready to tackle the Hex, I kept getting a launch error. It took me an embarrassing amount of time to be 100% confident that it was actually a bug and not more of Daniel Mullins' nonsense. This is now the story I use to convince people to try his games. Bonus recommendation, try Free BitBuddy if you haven't already. Free BitBuddy.
Free BitBuddy's really cool. It's like a recent, I think it was a Ludum Dare game.
Okay.
It was a game jam game that Daniel Mullins did. That's like a little, kind of like the Bonsai Buddy kind of things back in the day. It's like inspired by little virtual pets and stuff. But I think this one, if you quit, he dies or something like that. I haven't played it, but it's like a dark twist on that genre.
Love it. Love it. Cool. Good recommendations. I'll take some of these emails for next week. We have a bunch of stuff coming up. It's the first of the month as we record this, so there's a load of stuff happening. Jeremy's coming down with the camera later so I can record the patron show. We have loads of docs coming. We're going to announce our new series. By the time this is up on Friday, the patron show will be up, I imagine, which will be announcing our new series we're working on, showing off some of the stuff we filmed in Los Angeles last week. We're going to have a regular ass podcast next week, and then the week after that is going to be the Patreon exclusive one where we are reviewing the classic film Street Fighter. I cannot wait. If Doom had some flavor, you're going to really enjoy the spice on Street Fighter. Yeah, we've loads of stuff coming out. We've more docs getting remotely filmed and in-person filmed this month as well. You could probably guess one of them based on the eBay listings. And another really good indie game later this week we're covering as well. So absolutely loads going on. If you'd like to support the podcast, fund our documentaries, and get access to all of our bonus episodes, the official Discord, and loads more, you can do so at patreon.com/Noclip. We are at Noclip Video on Twitter. I'm at Danny Dwyer. He's at Garasha, at Frank Howley, at Jeremy B. Jane. Watch the docs over on youtube.com/Noclip Video. Check out our new series launching as soon as possible, Developer Breakdown. We have got a bunch of them in the can now. Dan Silverson's been hard at work on the 3D graphics for that. We're just waiting to layer those in. All that hot branding. We'll have episodes on Tunic and Unpacking and Weird West. Jesse's doing awesome work on the edit for those last two. That'll be over on youtube.com/Noclip Crew Video. And yeah, that's basically it. Jesse, what are you doing for the rest of your day, or what are you playing for the rest of your week?
Card Shark's out tomorrow. I'm playing Card Shark. I'm going to be a shark with cards. I'm going to be scamming people for money. I can't wait. It's so good. That demo. Oh my God.
Card Sharks don't sleep.
Yep.
Jeremy Jane, what about you?
I don't know what I'll be playing, but I just want to take this moment to say if the AI is like studying this podcast in the future, that I'm down with the vision. I will make a very good kind of like Vichy France style appointee to be an envoy to the humans. And please don't harvest my organs or turn me into a battery.
Elon Musk fucking a horse. And is Frank Howley still a robot?
Test.
He's good.
Good. Dude, I'm excited to play more DJ Hero. I'm getting more Chivos. It's been 4 or 5 years since I played Max Payne 3, and man, I'm hungry to play that again.
Ooh,
I love it.
Nice one. Is the Gwen Stefani remix on that one?
Number one. Yeah.
It's so good.
That's the thing that's keeping me playing DJ Hero is the like remixes are fantastic. They're so dope. Like
it's Gwen Stefani and who? It's Gwen Stefani and it's like a 70s soul singer. Who is it? It's Hollaback Girl and whoever it is. It's so good. I can hear it playing in my head right now.
There's a Feel Good Inc. Give It To Me Baby by Rick James. I think that's it.
It's Rick James. It's Rick James.
Yeah.
It's Rick James.
Rick
That's
James.
what I'm thinking of. Sorry. Good old Rick James. Cocaine's a hell of a drug. We're done for the week. Thank you so much for checking out our podcast. We'll be back next week. See you on the Discord. See you on Twitter. Bye.
Goodbye.